Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Alliance's webinar series. Today is Wednesday, August 24th, 2016, and today's webinar features two great presentations in one fantastic webinar. My name is Christine Beck, and I am proud to be with the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. To tell you a little bit about the Alliance, we are a statewide team of self-advocacy groups in Illinois. We work together to make life better in our communities and work to make services better in our state. We want groups from around the state to speak up together with one loud voice. We can do more when we all work together. The Alliance is made up right now of 25 separate self-advocacy groups all around Illinois. We are in Zion and McHenry, in Alsip, Brookfield, Chicago, Chicago Heights, Homewood, and Joliet. We're also in Rock Island and Pontiac, LaSalle, Peru, and Beardstown, as well as in Jacksonville. We have member groups in Bloomington and Decatur, in Champaign and Monticello, in Charleston, and in Alton and Edwardsville. You don't have to look far to find a self-advocacy group that's a member of the Alliance. And with that, I'd like to welcome our first presenter. Her name is Jamie Ricketts. She's a self-advocate in Pontiac, Illinois, and her presentation is about her self-advocacy journey. So let's meet Jamie. Jamie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a bright, bubbly person. I love supernatural. I'm a self-advocate and secretary for LCAA. My favorite color is blue, and I'm a depression survivor.
So I have a question for you. LCAA. What does that stand for?
Livingston County Advocates in Action.
And Livingston County Advocates in Action is one of the Alliance's member groups located at Futures Unlimited in Pontiac, Illinois. And we're coming to you today live from Livingston County Advocates in Action headquarters in Futures Unlimited. So Jamie, you've really been active in self-advocacy in the past year. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at work, I've done Speak Up Summit, Going Home Rally, Livingston County Special Service Unit Trans Conference. I'm the secretary of LCAA, also known as Livingston County Advocates in Action. I've also shared about seed balls on our local radio station. On my own, I have a Facebook page, and I'm a member of our church youth group.
All right, and I see a picture there in the corner, and I think that was taken when you presented at the Livingston County Special Services Unit Transition Conference. So you presented to high school students.
I did.
And tell us what you presented about.
I basically presented on how to speak up for yourself.
All right. So you really have been active in self-advocacy. And, you know, we all speak up and speak out in different ways. And so tell us a couple of the ways that you speak up and speak out.
When people are not treating me with respect, teaching others and sharing advice to other people.
All right. So that's great because sometimes we speak up for ourselves. And then I know from a lot of self-advocates, sometimes we help others speak up when they maybe might be a little bit afraid to speak up. We help them find their voice. So thank you for doing that. We talk a lot about hopes and dreams for the future, and everybody has hopes and dreams, and so do you. So what are some of your hopes and dreams?
Well, my first and foremost dream is a dream that I have and I'm very passionate about, is to meet Jared and Jensen from Supernatural, meet members of Facebook support groups in person, learn more about depression and how I can help other people, and become president of LCAA.
All right, so I have a couple questions for you. So there's a picture on the screen, and maybe not everybody is familiar with who's in that picture. Can you tell us about that?
Well, that picture is a picture of Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles from the TV show Supernatural.
All right. Okay. And then you've mentioned that you have a Facebook support group.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about that Facebook support group.
That's a page. That page is a page where friends from the show Supernatural, we can kind of get together and encourage each other and be a real good family. And if we have a problem, we'll kind of work it out together or give advice. It just depends on what somebody needs in that page. We kind of help out and give each other encouragement. So.
All right. So it sounds like there's different ways that people can speak up and speak out and encourage others. Certainly we can do it when we are face-to-face, maybe in a group. But there's also another way you're talking about, and it's via Facebook or some kind of online support group. So awesome. I like that. We also talk about cheerleaders. When we have hopes and dreams and we share them with other people, we have cheerleaders in our lives that cheer us on, and they help us out and they support us and they want really what's best for us. And so who are your cheerleaders?
My mom, group advisors at LCAA, my friends from Facebook support page.
And tell us a little bit about how your cheerleaders support you and cheer you on.
My mom is always there to help me if I have a problem. I can go to her and just kind of ask her what to do. The advisors at LCAA help with different things that are going on. If we have questions or if I just need a little guidance on a certain situation on how to approach a problem, I'll go. And then my friends on Facebook, they just give me a lot of encouragement throughout difficult times.
All right. That's awesome. I encourage everybody to think about who are your cheerleaders and to let them know, and maybe to thank them for being a cheerleader. Sometimes people may not know that they've been a cheerleader for you, and to let them know that they do play an important role in your life. It's always awesome to hear and to share. So we have happy places, the places that, or the things that make us happy and make us feel safe and whole and really complete us. So you shared some of your happy places. How about letting people know what those are?
I love to write. I love to be with my family and friends, my dog, talking to people who support me, my music, my Facebook page, support groups from with people with depression, and anything about Supernatural.
All right. So thanks for sharing about your happy places. And again, we encourage everybody to think about, what are your happy places? What are the places that make you feel happy and safe and secure and whole? And sometimes we talk to ourselves, right? We encourage ourselves and we tell ourselves, you can do this, you've got this. What are some of the things that you tell yourself?
AKF, always keep fighting, love myself first, my life is worth fighting for. There are people in my life who love me, I am wanted.
And can you tell me about the picture that's on the screen?
I actually drew that for support for some of my friends on Facebook and my Facebook page. They were kind of going through a rough time, and I thought maybe if I made a little picture and posted it, maybe it would give them some encouragement of just different things that would brighten up their day, and they could always tell ourselves.
So not only do you have cheerleaders, it sounds like when you drew this and you shared this with others, you were a cheerleader and you are a cheerleader for other people. So that's really something that we should all remember, that while we do have cheerleaders, we can be a cheerleader for other people. And when we were talking about this presentation, you had a quote that was very important to you, and it went along with a candle burning.
Yes.
And so would you like to share the quote that's on this page?
The quote is, "Everyone is given a candle that burns just for them. When your flame flickers and you fear it will go out, know not 7 the strongest winds last forever. And there are other lights to guide you, even in the darkness. And when your candle burns bright, you can ignite the hearts of others, and hope will spread like wildfire. Always keep fighting, and you'll never fight alone." Jared Padalecki.
And Jared is one of the cast members
Supernatural.
from Supernatural. All right. And there's a picture of a candle, and I know that is a very important and powerful symbol for you.
Yes.
All right. So now we come to the time of Jamie's webinar, her self-advocacy journey, where if you have a question or a comment or a consideration that you'd like to share, just go ahead, use your control panel to type it in. We'll read it out loud so that everybody can hear, and Jamie can answer it. So go ahead and let us know if you have a question, a comment, or a consideration for Jamie. I know she shared a lot of great information, things about cheerleaders and her happy places, and the way she's spoken up and spoken out, and some of her hopes and some of her dreams. And she's given all of us things to think about as we move forward in life. So again, go ahead and use that control panel to type in a question, and we've got our first question. So this comes from Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac, Illinois, and they ask, can you tell us why Supernatural is so important to you?
Because one of the cast members, Jared, suffers from depression, and he's not afraid to show it to other people, and he basically is not afraid to show it. He is aware of it, and he a lot of times tells us to just keep fighting no matter the situation.
So it sounds like he's someone who's proud of who he is, and
yes.
He's proud of the journey that he's on, as yes. we all should be. So that's a great question, and Jamie, thank you for that answer. So anybody else have any questions, comments, or considerations for Jamie? And we have another one. This one comes from Shannon, who is one of the allies and advisors of Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac. And the consideration is this: I like that you have more than one place to find support. I think it is important to have more than one resource for help and support. Nice job. Yeah, I think that's really great, because we should have different people or different places that we can go to for support. So we're not just limited to one person. And from Livingston County Advocates in Action, Denise says she really likes your quote with the candle.
Well, thank you, Denise.
All right. So if anybody else has a question, comment, or contribution they would like to share, go ahead and use your control panel to type it in. While you're doing that, we are going to switch places, and we are going to invite the other presenter to come a little bit closer. And while we're doing that, we do have another question. All right. This is from Shelley on the Client Advisory Board in, let's see, Galesburg, Illinois. She would like to know, how did you connect with the high school? So how did you get involved in that transition conference, and what did the high schoolers think about it?
Well, it wasn't that long ago that I was in high school, so it was pretty easy to connect to them, and it was pretty cool. They enjoyed it.
All right. And so we encourage all of you out there to get involved maybe with some high school advocacy. Certainly all of you are experts in being self-advocates, and you have lots of expertise and wisdom to share, and you can help train up that next generation of self-advocates who are in high school. So we have a question from Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac. Joe would like to know how long you've been with LCAA.
I've been with LCAA going on a year and a half now.
All right, so there you go, Joe. And here's another one from Livingston County Advocates in Action. Jamie, your mom says she is so proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Mommy.
So Mom came along today to watch the presentation live. All right, from Self-Advocates of Lake County in Zion, Illinois, I have several people cheering for me to get a job in the community. Who are your cheerleaders or coaches?
Would be my mom and just my friends around me.
All right. So we find people around us that support us and that believe in us, and they're not going to rain on our parade, but they're going to lift us up, right?
Oh, yes.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you for that question from Self-Advocates of Lake County and Zion. All right. I don't see any further questions, comments, or considerations for Jamie, so we are going to kind of switch over and start our next fabulous webinar. All right. So welcome everyone to Wheelchair Etiquette. It's all about respect. It's been developed and presented by Jeannie, Patty, and Renee, all self-advocates and members of Livingston County Advocates in Action Self-Advocacy Group right here in Pontiac, Illinois. So that you know the faces and the voices behind the presentation, we'd like you to meet the presenters. Jeannie, Patty, and Renee developed this presentation because they wanted to share about the importance of being respectful to people who use wheelchairs. And they have had experiences where people weren't very respectful, and they thought, you know, we need to do something about this.
I want people to see me, not my wheelchair. I want people to take the time to get to know me. I deserve respect, and that's by Renee. I am a friend, and I like to do lots of things and have fun. Using a wheelchair is how I get around the easiest. I can also walk, and that's presented by Jeannie. Okay. If we really think about it, we can be each other's greatest teachers. We just need to understand what is important to each other.
All right.
There are lots of reasons that people may choose to use a wheelchair. Here are just a couple of them. They may not be able to stand for a long period of time. They may not be able to walk long distances. Just because a person uses a wheelchair doesn't mean that he or she can't walk. The most important thing is to treat a person who uses a wheelchair like you would treat anyone else. Jeannie and Renee shared that their biggest complaint is that people don't get down on their level when talking with them. That is easy to fix. If you are going to have a conversation with someone who uses a wheelchair, get a chair and sit down next to them, or together find a place where you can sit down.
And Jeannie and Renee are saying yes, yes, yes. So again, Jeannie and Renee shared that their biggest complaint is people don't get down to our level. But then they also shared, well, that's easy to fix. Get a chair and sit down next to us, or let's together find a place where you can sit down and we can all be together.
Nobody wants to be talked down to. It is not respectful and doesn't feel good. When we take the time to sit down with each other at eye level, it shows that each person has equal power and respect for each other.
And that's really important, isn't it? We want to have equal power. We want to get respect. So again, being at eye level means that power is equalized.
Another thing Jeannie and Renee shared was that sometimes people think that a person who uses a wheelchair can't shake hands when meeting or greeting. That is not true. Don't be afraid to extend your hand to shake the hand of another person and shake whatever hand the person offers you. If a person doesn't want to shake your hand, that's okay too.
All right, so great advice. Again, just because someone uses a wheelchair doesn't mean you can't shake their hand.
Many people who use wheelchairs say that people don't always talk to them, instead talking to a staff who may be supporting them or a friend or family member that they may be with. Not talking directly to a person is rude and doesn't show respect. Talk to the person, and if he or she needs help answering, let the person ask the staff, family member, or friend to help communicate.
And again, it's about that power and respect, right? So you talk to the person who happens to use a wheelchair, not to the staff or the family member or the friend. All right. And both Jeannie and Renee are saying absolutely right.
Everybody communicates. There are lots of different ways that people communicate, and it is respectful to take the time to understand a person's preferred way of communicating. Now we want to hear from you. Using your control panel, type in the different ways that people can communicate. We will share your answers out loud.
All right, so here you go, folks. We want to hear from you. Both Jeannie and Renee and Patty want to hear from you. So how do people communicate? Use your control panel and type in all the different ways that people can communicate. And we will share your answers out loud. We can't wait to hear all your answers. So maybe you talk amongst yourself and then somebody types it in and we're going to read it out loud, and here we go. All right, from Livingston County Advocates in Action, they said sign language. So some people use sign language. Awesome. And another one from Livingston County Advocates in Action, some people communicate by their facial expressions. And some people use communication boards, right? And by body language. And from Self-Advocates of Lake County, some people communicate verbally. They talk. Some people use sign language. Some people with eye contact, and others by shaking hands. So there's lots of different ways that people communicate. Another way that somebody said is talk boxes. All right, yeah. And hey, there's our friend Devon. She's with Futures Unlimited, and she said, folks from the Learning Center in Dwight said people communicate by talking, using picture boards, and facial expressions. Livingston County Advocates in Action say people also communicate by drawing and writing. Awesome. Self-Advocates of Lake County says others use communication books. And Felicia Smith says other people communicate by nodding. Wow, there's lots of ways that people communicate, right? And it's respectful and it equalizes power. when we take the time to learn how a person prefers to communicate. So what do you think, Patty? Is that a great job they did?
It's an awesome job that they really did.
All right, so let's learn about support animals.
Don't touch the animal with a...
Here, that's what
Okay. Some people who use wheelchairs may also have a service animal to help them. Here are some tips to follow when meeting or approaching a service animal and his or her partner. Don't touch the animal without asking permission first. This is a distraction and may prevent the animal from support his or her human partner. Never feed the animal. It may be on a special diet, plus food is a distraction and can keep the animal from doing his or her job. Speak to the person, not the service animal. Most people do not mind answering questions about their support animal if they have the time. Do not whistle or make sounds to the animal as it may distract it from doing its job.
Oh, thank you, Patty. So again, just to recap, don't touch the animal without asking permission. Don't feed the animal, and don't whistle or call to the animal. The animal is there to do its job for its human partner.
Let's practice what you've learned so far. Consider the scenario. Sarah is pushing her brother Jacob in his wheelchair on the sidewalk. As you approach them, you see that Jacob is using his hands to talk to Sarah. Should you still address Jacob directly, or should you assume that he won't be able to communicate with you and ask Sarah questions instead? Use your control panel to send us your answers. We will share your answers out loud.
All right, we want to hear from you. What would you do in this scenario? So again, Sarah is pushing her brother Jacob in his wheelchair on the sidewalk. So as you walk up to them, you see that Jacob is using his hands to talk to Sarah. Should you still talk to Jacob directly, or should you assume that he won't be able to communicate with you and ask Sarah questions instead? So what would you do? Think about what you've already learned. All right, and here we go. So Self-Advocates of Lake County says, talk to Jacob by using his way of communication while getting to his level to make sure that he is comfortable. Renee and Jeannie, what do you think about that answer? All right. Yes, they like that answer very much. Anybody else have any other ideas? So should you still talk to Jacob directly, or should you assume he won't be able to communicate with you and ask his sister Sarah questions instead? What would you do? All right. From the Dwight Learning Center, Self-Advocates there said, talk to Jacob, and his sister can help him if needed. All right. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. So how do you think they did on that scenario, ladies?
Awesome.
All right. We have another person chiming in. All right. We have CTF Advocacy Center in Charleston, Illinois. They said, yes, talk to him and use sign language if you know it. All right. Just because a person uses sign language doesn't mean they can't talk or they can't hear. People use sign language for a lot of different reasons. All right. So let's see what's next.
Wheelchair etiquette is about respect. There is a great quote that says, respect for ourselves guides our morals, respect for others guides our manners. Showing respect is good manners. Here are two other ways to show respect and good manners. Always ask permission and wait for a response before assisting someone who uses a wheelchair. Don't sit in, lean on, or touch someone's wheelchair. It's part of his or her body, and you must respect it.
Yes, and I'm hearing yes, yes, yes from Renee, and Jeannie is nodding. Great ways to show respect and good manners, always asking for permission and waiting for a response before assisting or supporting someone who uses a wheelchair. And don't ever sit in, lean on, or touch somebody's wheelchair. It's a part of his or her body. And just like we respect other body parts of people, we must respect that.
Here's another scenario. Your friend Chris uses a wheelchair. You see him in the middle of the hallway talking with some other people. People keep knocking into him, so you decide to just go up to him and move him out of the way. Is this a good idea? Even though Chris might get hurt from people running into him, should you still ask permission to move him? Use your control panel to send us your answers. We will share your answers out loud.
All right, so here's another scenario to practice. You have a friend named Chris, and he uses a wheelchair. You see him in the middle of the hallway, and he's talking to some other people. People keep knocking into him, so you decide, I'm just going to go up to him and move him out of the way. Is that a good idea? And even though Chris might get hurt from people running into him, should you still ask permission to move him? And these scenarios are real life situations that Renee and Jeannie have experienced. And so we're all learning from them together. All right. So CTF Advocacy Center in Charleston, they say, yes, you should ask permission to move him and explain to him. What do you think about that? Yep. All right. Anybody else have any ideas on this? Is it a good idea to move him? And should you still ask permission? The self-advocates at Livingston County Advocates in Action say, we say no. We should always ask permission. All right. Always ask permission. And here's something from Felicia. Maybe ask the people bumping into Chris to move back. Hey, that's something else. Maybe it's not about Chris moving. It's about other people being respectful and not bumping into him. What do you think about that? All right, I like that one too. And self-advocates from Dwight Learning Center, ask first because it's disrespectful to assume he wants to be moved and not giving him his choice. All right. So we've got that respect and choice in there. And Renee, you like that answer? I do too. Thank you very much for reminding us about respect, and maybe he wants to be in the middle of the hallway, and you know what? I like what Felicia said. Ask the other people to watch out. All right.
Exactly.
Awesome answers, everyone.
Okay, here we go. Who remembers the Roadrunner cartoon character? The Roadrunner went very fast, never slowing down. He would also say beep, beep when Wile E. Coyote was in his way. Have patience with others, whether they use a wheelchair or not. They may not be as fast as you, but that doesn't mean you should cut them in the line. Don't race them to the door because you could hurt someone.
Yeah, take your time. Live life a little.
Here's our last scenario for you to consider. While waiting to go outside, you are frustrated because the person in front of you uses a wheelchair and can't go as fast as you. Should you rush ahead of them to get out first or allow that person to take his or her time? After all, you are both going to get to go outside in the end. One more time. Use your control panel to send us your answers and we will share them out loud.
All right, so here's the last scenario. So you're waiting to go outside and you're frustrated because there's a person in front of you who uses a wheelchair and They're not going as fast as you can go. So should you rush ahead of that person so you can get out first? Or should you wait and let that person take his or her time? I mean, you're both going to get outside. What would you do? All right. So CTF Advocacy Center in Charleston, the self-advocates say, allow them to take their time. And the self-advocates at Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac says, you should wait. You need to slow your roll, as people say, right? And Felicia Smith says, wait your turn. Yeah, we need to be, again, it's about respect. That's what you all said when we began. It's about respect. Respect for other people and respect for yourself. And self-advocates from Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac said, it's about using your manners. We talked a little bit about manners, having good manners, treating people the way you want to be treated. So how do you think they did on that scenario? What do you think? Yes? All right. So let's learn about some famous people who use wheelchairs.
Some of the most well-known people have had to use wheelchairs. On the left is Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. His disability was caused by polio. In public, he used iron braces on his legs and a cane to walk short distances. Fitting his hips and legs with iron braces, he laboriously taught himself to walk a short distance by swiveling his torso while supporting himself with a cane. In private, he used a wheelchair, but he was careful never to be seen in it in public. On the right is Tanny Gray Thompson, an athlete with a disability. She has competed in Paralympic Games since 1988, winning 14 medals, including 9 golds, and has broken over 20 world records. As a wheelchair athlete, she has also won the London Marathon 5 times.
Wow. And we also want to mention that self-advocates from Dwight Learning Center shared, we should wait. It's very disrespectful to rush anyone. Now, would we be rushing the president if he were around, or would we be rushing Tanny if she were around? Probably not. So why would you rush your friends? How about some more famous people?
Here are some other famous people you may recognize. On the left is Stephen Hawking. The internationally renowned physicist, mathematician has defied time and doctors' diagnosis that he would not live 2 years beyond his 21st birthday after he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, also referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. The symptoms are very similar to those of cerebral palsy. He cannot walk and talk, and he has difficulty in holding up his head, swallowing, and breathing. He has been using a special computer that displays the text he types and speaks what he types with an electronic voice. On the right is Christopher Reeve, an actor, director, producer, and writer. He portrayed Superman, Clark Kent, and also starred in several films. In 1995, he was paralyzed in an accident during a horse competition. His injuries left him paralyzed, unable to use any of his limbs or even to breathe without the help of a respirator.
So people use wheelchairs for different reasons. And just as you all mentioned earlier, everybody communicates. We all communicate differently, but everybody communicates.
Jeannie, Renee, and I want you to remember the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them done unto you. We should show respect to everyone we meet, just as we want them to respect us. As we come to the end of our time together learning about wheelchair etiquette, you are invited to share any questions, comments, or considerations. Just type them in using your control panel and we will share and answer them.
All right. So again, let us know if you have any questions, comments, and considerations for Patty, Jeannie, and Renee as it relates to wheelchair etiquette. Just use that control panel, type them in, and we will share them so that everybody can learn together. All right, so I know everybody's talking and they're probably getting ready to type in those questions, comments, and considerations. And again, this presentation about wheelchair etiquette came from real life situations that Jeannie and Renee and Patty had experienced. And they realized probably other people had experienced them as well. And they wanted to make sure that people could learn, you know, what is the best way to do things? What is the right way to do things? And as a result, this presentation was born. And here we go with the questions, comments, and considerations. The Self-Advocates from Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac said, "You guys did a great job." All right, you guys did a great job. Indeed, they did. So do we have any other questions, comments, and considerations that you would like to share? Go ahead and use your control panel and type them in. And I'll ask both Jamie, who presented our first presentation on Self-Advocacy Journey, as well as Patty, Renee, and Jeannie. Would you guys like to share anything about your experience on presenting? Would you like to share anything, Jamie?
It was fun.
It was fun.
Stressful, but fun.
Stressful, but fun. How about for you, Patty?
Well, the reason why we use body language, that's because whether or not we are talking, our bodies are sending messages all the time between the rest of our bodies and our brains.
All right. So we do have a question relating to the wheelchair etiquette presentation. Self-Advocates from Lake County up in Zion, Illinois said, how does the wheelchair get around when they are at the grocery store getting groceries or at the movie theater? So do you go shopping at the grocery store? Do you go to the movie theater? Okay, so Renee and Jeannie are saying, yeah, we do that. And how do you get around? Like you do anywhere else. And so you would still use wheelchair etiquette when you are at the grocery store or at the shopping mall or at the movie theater. All right, thank you. Felicia Smith says, thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you, ladies, all of you, for your expertise and teaching us new things today. Self-Advocates at Dwight Learning Center said, everyone says excellent job. We had a lot of fun with it. Thank you. Oh, a self-advocate from Livingston County Advocates in Action said, have any of you experienced difficulty getting your wheelchairs fixed or getting a new one? And both Jeannie and Renee are indicating yes, they have had some difficulties getting their wheelchairs fixed and getting new ones. And I have another friend who is in the process of getting a new wheelchair, and she said it's a really long process, you know, almost a year process to get a new one. And another comment actually a question from Self-Advocates at Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac. Do you think your community businesses support wheelchair access? So are all the businesses in the community accessible for people in wheelchairs? Okay, so what I'm hearing from Jeannie and Renee is some are and some aren't. And maybe they could do a better job of being accessible, because guess what? People in wheelchairs have money to spend, and they want to be out in the community spending their money, and they'd like to go to your business. So maybe helping educate the businesses in the community that you need to be a little bit more accessible so that we can come and support your business. If you support us, we will support you. Self-Advocates at Dwight Learning Center said, we struggle with that same issue up here as well. So not all businesses are wheelchair accessible and wheelchair friendly. So here's an opportunity to do some community education. Wonderful. Do we have any other questions, comments, or considerations? We'll just leave it open for another minute. Again, we are excited that everyone has joined us today for one webinar, two fabulous presentations. We have recorded this webinar, so if you would like to receive a copy of the recording, you can email me, Christine Beck, at christinebeck@gmail.com and request a copy of the recording so that you can play it back. Sometimes when you play it back and you see the presentation again, you learn some new things that maybe you missed the first time. All right. Does anybody have any other questions, comments, or considerations? I'm going to ask Jeannie and Renee, did you have fun? Yep. They had fun. Patty, did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun too.
All right. How about you, Jamie?
I did.
All right. We do have some more questions, comments, and consideration. Shannon Dolman, who is an ally and advisor of the Livingston County Advocates in Action Self-Advocacy Group in Pontiac, says, proud of you. I'm proud of them too. I always like learning from the experts. And Self-Advocates from Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac asked, have you found that using bathrooms, some people may use the wheelchair accessible bathrooms when they don't need to? So maybe you go into the bathroom and there's already someone in the accessible bathroom and they maybe don't need to use it. Have you ever experienced that? Renee is saying yes, she has. Jeannie has as well. And I'll add this to that, that a friend of mine said, you know what, sometimes there will be a person in the accessible bathroom that I think doesn't need to use it. But then I remember maybe they do. Maybe there's a reason they need to use it. And as Shannon Dolman just chimed in, people need to remember we can't always see a disability. Maybe the person needs to use the accessible bathroom for a reason that we don't know and we can't see, and that we need to be respectful of that, just like we want people to be respectful of us. So no matter who you are or where you are on your journey, it's about respect, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, we've come to that time where it's time to say goodbye. And thank you for being part of one webinar, two great presentations. On behalf of Jamie and Patty and Jeannie and Renee, this is Christine Beck from the Alliance saying Thank you so much for being part of our time together today, and keep on speaking up and speaking out. And to CTF Advocacy in Charleston, thank you for being part of the webinar. We enjoyed having you on. So long, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.